I have an uncle?
Unfortunately.
I'm the dude.
Well, he's fairly intelligent. He's full of
That or his dudeness or duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing
Father Sky, Mother Earth, and your dear old Uncle Tony.
Oh yeah, it's the Uncle Dude Show. I'm Tony Galloway. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. I always say, if there's 5 people in the world, if there's one person in the world that likes what I do it for you. So this is your show, unnamed person. I do it for. So we got a lot to talk about, and a lot of stuff throughout the week is just coming up. I'm trying not to make it all things that just piss me off, because generally that's when people find me the most entertaining, but they don't take into consideration and I gotta continue to live my life. So it's hard to be angry at everything all the time and funny, and then turn the mic off and then go into society. So I'm trying to go through this talking about things in not an angry way. We'll see how long that lasts, but going to be a lot of wrestling news, a lot of video game stuff coming up I'm going to talk about. But first, it's a public service that if you put your voice through a microphone into a computer or any kind of other technology, and it goes out onto a radio, you need to have some kind of news service. It's a public service, folks. This is my public service. These are News Nasties.
Monday, March 13th, 2023. I'm Tony Galloway, and these are your News Nasties. A Nitro, West Virginia man was found dead on Tuesday, protected by at least 60 cats. In an interview with one of the cats, she says they were saving him for Easter.
What is on your nasty mind?
A Florida stripper is facing a domestic battery charge after allegedly striking her ex-boyfriend in the head with a, quote, large amount of rolled up money, end quote. Progress in all forms, folks.
She know I'm nasty. Yeah.
A man who calls himself Dolphin Dave has been arrested for allegedly harassing humpback whales and dolphins in Hawaii. In a statement, Sarah Seahorse and Priscilla Penguin are f***ing pissed.
Miss Jackson, if you're nasty.
NASA is estimating an asteroid the size of 112 dromedary camels stacked atop one another will be flying by in 2023. In other news, we really need a new unit of measurement for asteroids. A young boy who has raised more than $837,000 for cancer by sleeping outside in a tent is ending his challenge after 3 years and finally coming back inside. The new family living there was startled and shot him. More than 1.2 million march in France over a plan to raise the pension age to 64. Fear not, France. While you protest, there is a boy in a tent doing nothing for money. So there's hope yet.
I like them nasty.
And those are your News Nasties. Getting into the body of the show, there's a lot of stuff I wanted to talk about in the world of video games. Going to go over, I've been playing a lot of Dead Cells. They just released their DLC, Return to Castlevania. I'm going to talk about that because I have a lot to say about Castlevania and Dead Cells and games like that in general. I'm going to get into wrestling as well. AEW's all over the place. TNT titles stolen again. Like, what promotion, major title, has been stolen more in such a short period of time than AEW? FTR says nothing has changed as far as their contract negotiations have gone. Nothing more really on that, but we're going to talk wrestling a little later. Opening things up with video games, I had this big, long editorial where I was going to take myself really serious and talk about the video game rating system. In the attempts to rate something, I just decided to scrap it, just kind of give a broad definition of, just talk broadly about what I was going to talk about as far as video games rating systems goes. And not just video game ratings. This goes across the board for video games, movies, and what have you. But it was like one day, just foresight. I am a huge fan of criticism and critics. This goes from back when I was really, really young. I always read movie reviews in newspapers, and I watched Siskel and Ebert on television. If you're old enough to be alive when cable access was in its prime and was full of free speech, they had a lot of reviews and criticisms, kind of more in line with what I'm doing right now, actually. But so needless to say, I am a big fan of reviewers and criticisms of things, as long as they're fair and constructive. I think that's what people need to keep in mind, because now, not only are they not fair and not constructive, not all being broad here, but they leave exactly no room for discussion or criticism with the people who read them. I'm not talking about people who write them. The people who write them know what they're doing. You can't really stop them from doing that. But the people that read them, they see that number and they make a judgment based on that number. So, yes, it's a trivial number. It's just some dude's opinion. But some dude's opinion can carry a lot of weight, and people take that number and they go along about their day. And it used to be fair. Thumbs up, thumbs down, 5 stars, 4 stars, all across the board. Things had changed. When I was growing up, the barometer for a good movie, not great or anything special, just good, was a 6.5. Now, if you were to take a newer movie, like imagine if, me personally, this is just me personally, I don't think Avatar is great. I think it's a very good and average movie that the things it's judged on for being great for are beyond my knowledge. Special effects, graphics, and crap like that. I can use my eyes and I can see it, but what have you. But my point is, the movie itself is average. It's a 6.5. That's not a bad score. That's a very good score because it's a good movie. It's a competent movie. 6.5 to 7 is just good. And that used to be what I would go by. I would find a reviewer, if they said it was a 7 or a 6.5, okay. That person generally likes the same stuff I do, so I'm going to like it too. Problem now is average is like 9.2. When you actually sit down and you study and you look at all the review sites and all the reviews, they're all in the 80s and 90s, or like anywhere between 1 to 10. And now you'll find stuff in there in like the 50s, 60s, 70s. You'll find examples of what I'm talking about, not for like mainstream stuff that people are actually going to see. It's for like movies that I go to see that no one's ever heard of, that are about like a shoebox and a guy farting on a pizza. Those ones get rated in that dark zone of like anywhere between 20% on Rotten Tomatoes to like 70%, we'll say. Problem I have with that is first of all, when it comes to ratings, I definitely prefer the 100 scale over the others, just because it leaves a lot more criticism, in my opinion, to where if you say something is 10 stars, you have, like, in my opinion, 10 spots to make your case for or against. If you have 100, it opens up it opens it up more, and it leaves for more opinions and more discussion with folks. The reason that this came about is I was looking on Metacritic, which is another one of those kind of like Rotten Tomatoes sites that just gathers reviews from across the internet and puts them out there. And in fairness, maybe that's why they show up as average numbers in the 9s and blah, blah, blah. But from my experience in averaging stuff, the more people he asks, the less that number goes down. Over the years, that number has gone up. So something has changed there, or somebody is doing that on purpose. So I just printed off a few scores just to kind of give a comparison of what I'm talking about here, how the scores don't match. It's like they're trying to match people's enjoyment for it than they are the actual game. They're not breaking down the story, they're not breaking down the gameplay, they're not breaking down the music. They're just saying, hey, this game to me is a 10 out of 10. That's fine for you, but if your position as a public figure, the criticism needs to be better. So when it comes to video games, just this last year, God of War Ragnarok, or God of War 5, came out. Metacritic gave it a 94 based on all of the websites that did reviews for God of War. Gave it a 94. That is a good score. And in my head, anything from 90 to 100 is untouchable territory. God of War Ragnarok is very good, but it's not the Goodfellas of video games. It's not the Godfather of video games. It's a very good game, and it definitely deserves that score. But that score all seems nothing when you look down also just a few steps down on the rankings as far as the scores go. And at a 90 is, I'm sorry, at a 93, not even at a 93, so one score below God of War Ragnarok, Tetris Effect Connected at a 93, 7.3 user score. Usually I go by the user scores on these websites. They gather all the reviews. I trust the users in that case better. They gave it a 7.3, but they gave God of War Ragnarok a 7.2. So there's no doubt in my mind that there is several hundreds and thousands and probably millions of people that played Tetris Effect and thought it was the greatest video game they've ever played in their life. They probably thought it's a life-changing experience, me playing Tetris Effect Connected. But in my opinion, in a perfect world, if we're talking about review scores and what they mean, Tetris Effect Connected is not one below God of War Ragnarok. And I'm not even the biggest God of War fan. I'm just talking from a criticism and technical aspect. God of War Ragnarok is clearly better. The story is better. Graphics are better. Gameplay is better. It has all of these things. Now, Tetris Effect may be your favorite game on the planet Earth. It may be the only game that you play, but the only thing you do in it is play Tetris. Whereas God of War Ragnarok took thousands of people to make, so many man hours and blah, 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 blah. And listen, hard work doesn't always account into how great or how good something is in the end. But I guarantee that the people involved with God of War Ragnarok are looking at it and thinking, you know what? We're much better than Tetris Effect Connect. And not because it has anything to do with some people out there that had fun with Tetris Effect. It does that make sense? Does you see where I'm getting at here? Sometimes I need to realize maybe I don't have to talk about it more. Maybe they just understand what I'm saying right here. And then you take another game like Metroid Prime Remastered, scored at a 94. Now, Metroid Prime Remastered, and I'm going to talk about it a little later, is a fantastic remastered game. Metroid Prime, just regular off the GameCube, is a great game, all-time great in itself. But when you talk about all the things combined with God of War Ragnarok, what it took to make, what it looks like, and what it's achieved as far as being an actual good game that is cinematic in its sense, it's not tied with God of War Ragnarok, nor should it be. But that's my opinion. I think more so my opinion is I have a bigger problem with the, I know what the term is, aggregated website, like the Metacritic or Rotten Tomatoes is the most popular one that takes all reviews from other websites and makes a score based on them. Maybe the problem is more so with them. I don't know. Editorial wasn't necessarily about them, so maybe next time it'll be about Metacritic or Rotten Tomatoes. But that's all I have to say about it. My biggest problem is when you leave criticism up to just 50-50 chance, it takes the criticism away and it makes it a pass or fail. To me, things like making a game or making anything in life are steps. There is a process. There is no pass or fail. There is no black or white. I know it's trivial and it's just video games and stuff like that, but this kind of criticism is used for everything, and it drives me crazy. So as a podcast that will be doing quote-unquote reviews, I mean, you're going to hear one later on. I should have mentioned it in the beginning, but I'm going to be recapping the Last of Us season finale as well as the entire season, just because this is the first episode. Because truth be told, this podcast was actually going to be a Last of Us fan podcast. And then I decided there's a million other things I wanted to talk about. So I'm going to be doing that. But what I was getting at, as a podcast, I'll be doing those things. I will not be making any kind of star rating system. Fans of professional wrestling know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to do a thumbs up, thumbs down, so to speak. Nothing that, any form of sensationalism reviewing, anything like that. I'm going to give you my views and opinions based on my eyes and what I see. And I'm not going to give it a score. I'm going to give a general review of it. And my whole thing is placing certain personality types of people into certain different kind of shows. So if there is anything to take away from my style of reviews when I get there, I like to match shows with personality types. So that may be how I go about it, but I'm not going to have a score, anything like that. If I do say anything along those lines, it's going to be with a lot of disclosure that it's opinion, editorial. It's not going to be listed on websites or anything like that. So having said that, point is there's not going to be any star ratings on my end. And that God of War Ragnarok and Tetris Effect should not be within one of each other, even though they're both fantastic games. So we're going to stick with video games here. AEW, wrestling promotion, their video game, AEW Fight Forever, was announced a year and a half ago, and it's been plagued with delays since then. Well, it looks like they're going to be caught up in another one, though I don't anticipate this one being as long as the others. But independent wrestling promotion GCW apparently filed to oppose the trademark AEW Fight Forever on March 1st. So apparently GCW has some kind of trademark over the term Fight Forever. So this game has just been, at this point, and it's really sad too. So when AEW announced this video game, it got the video game world that is associated with professional wrestling extremely excited, because they made the proclamation that it was going to be like the N64 90 days, man. It was going to be THQ, Aki, just madness. It was going to be great. And everyone was like, yeah. And they got all excited. And we're like, AEW, Fight Forever, Fight Forever, and what have you. And then we just kept doing that for like a year. And then they were like, hey, man, we got a trailer for it. And it's just like, cool, but you could have just released a picture and just give us a release date or something. So this is just one more thing. And I just didn't anticipate something like GCW having an actual trademark or exclusive use to the term Fight Forever, or more specifically AEW Fight Forever. So I don't anticipate this is going to delay the game any longer than it already has. But my point where I was getting at is it's at the point now to where, yes, I was, and everybody else, rightfully so, was very, 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 very excited about it and the potential of it, I think, mainly. But now it's kind of like, I will give you the time of day after today. As soon as there's a release date, just a release date, actually. I don't want to see any more footage. I don't want to see anything else. All I want to see is a release date, and then we can move on for it. GCW, you said it at the end. You don't want any of Tony Khan's money, so just stop. Just stop with this suing for, hey, we need to be right. Hey, we came up with it first. Just stop. Just let it go. You don't need to own the term Fight Forever. And if you really didn't want any money, why'd you sue? That's AEW. Hopefully we get it eventually. Hopefully we get a solid and robust criticism from my end from it on this podcast. God forbid it's still around when this game actually comes out. That's going to be, let's just mark it right here. The Uncle Dude show, when the AEW game finally comes out, is going to be a special one. Because it's a game that at this point, I don't believe is going to come out. And if it does, I don't believe it's going to match the excitement they promised us a couple years ago. So good luck with that, Tony Khan. Sticking with video games, I think I talked about Dead Cells in the beginning. Yeah. Full disclosure, the intro to this, so not the edited part, the me just talking, I recorded like 5 different times. And I can't remember exactly. I'm sure I could go back and listen to it again, but I'm kind of on a roll now, so I'm just going to keep rolling. So Dead Cells. Action hack and slash roguelike game came out in 2018, I want to say. I just wanted to talk about roguelites in general, because it's a genre that I wasn't all that familiar with. Maybe heard about, but never played anything for a while. And if I hadn't heard about it, then certainly the casual fan that might be listening right now certainly has never heard of it. So roguelites are basically the easiest definition I could give for it is the game starts at an extremely hard difficulty. And through playing it over and over and over again, you get power-ups, you get upgrades, and blah, 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 and that brings the game to like a playable level. So basically, you're playing the same level over and over and over again, and it's extremely difficult, but every time you play it, you get something new. You get new knowledge, you get new powers, you get new upgrades, you get something that continues on the journey. And I fell in love with these games, mainly a game by the name of Hades. Which if you're familiar with games, you know Hades. It's a very popular game in the genre. I came across it, and it changed my life because it came at a point where I stopped competing with other people on things in life, and I started competing with myself. And roguelites are exactly that. There is no online play. There is, I mean, obviously you could look up scores and times online of what other people have done, but you're not playing against another person online is my point. You choose the difficulty. You do everything. It's you. You are challenging yourself. So Hades brought me into the genre, and I've kind of been obsessed with it ever since. I've kind of been playing everything I can that has the title. Just because that the accomplishment, the dopamine you get from finally beating a boss you've been to 50 times and finally beating him with the right power up that was given to you is just a feeling I can't express. Try it sometimes. Try Hades. Try Dead Cells, which is the game that I'm going to be talking about. Dead Cells was the first at the time to get people exposed to the genre. I came in a little later because Hades came around the same time, but I got into it around 2020. But Dead Cells kind of was the first popular one that people started playing. I'm late to the party. And it's a fantastic game. It doesn't give me the dopamine drip that Hades does, but it's still a very good game, and it challenges you, and it's full of accomplishment. I haven't even done everything you can at it. I'm like 40 hours deep, and I technically, quote unquote, have beat it, but I haven't really beat it because these games you never really beat, and to actually beat them in 100% of them, as we say, is extremely difficult. But that is that's the pleasure you get from it. So they just released a new DLC called Return to Castlevania, which is obviously about Super Mario Brothers. And they had 3 other DLC packs that weren't related necessarily to any other major game, but they got a bunch of licenses from independent games to use their characters and stuff like that. So like Slay the Spire, Hotline Miami, I think Shovel Knight makes an appearance, but the independent titles like that are all over it. So that's kind of cool if you play independent games, which is like exclusively what I do for the most part, is play indie titles. And we're going to do a review of one a little later on, so keep in mind. Return to Castlevania. So I got into Dead Cells about a month ago for the Return to DLC pack. It's just 2, technically 3 levels, like 2 new boss battles, and the main selling point was the soundtrack. It has like 13 remastered original Castlevania tracks for it. Well, I guess you can't be original in that, but redone songs from the original game. So Vampire Killer, Bloody Tears, all the hits, they're all in there. That's kind of the main reason why I got it. Because one of the great things about this game is I personally love just putting on music and just fading away into a video game. A video game that doesn't have a story, it's a game you play. And this has great music in it already. So it's kind of like the DLC was more so just buying a great brand new album more so than a DLC. At least that's how I see it. It's only $10. The other ones are only like $4. I got the game dirt cheap off G2A.com. So not always newer, like major titles have great discounts, but games like this always do on that website or a Humble Bundle or something like that. So I got it. And then I didn't get the other DLC. So the game already has like 3 DLC packs that have like 12 extra levels or what have you. I didn't get it until just the Castlevania one came out, and it was only $20 for everything. So for $30, like you're getting a lot of game. And yes, you're replaying it over and over and over again, but it is different every single time. It does get repetitive. Unlike with Hades, to me, Hades is like 4 levels you see over and 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 over again, and it's the same enemies, but somehow it still seems fresh. I'm 300 hours into it, and there's still parts of it that seem fresh. That's a huge accomplishment. Dead Cells, after about 20 hours, I'd seen everything. I hadn't beaten everything, but I'd seen everything. And then the songs started getting repetitive. The Castlevania songs did. And that's the reason I got it. So the first day I played it, it's playing Bloody Tears and it's playing Vampire Killer and it's a and I'm like, yeah, and I'm just killing everything in sight. It's fantastic feeling. 10 hours later, it's still playing the song and I'm less enthusiastic about it. Having said that, the time in between I enjoyed thoroughly and it's well worth the money you pay for the game. Again, I paid $20 for hours and hours and hours of content. So yes, unlike some of the other games in the roguelite genre, this one to me got repetitive after a certain period of time, but it was like, again, over like a 20-hour period. So you're still going to get a lot out of it, but it did eventually get tiresome to me. The music, I had to put in my own music eventually because you can only listen to Bloody Tears and Vampire Killer so many times before you want to kill an actual vampire in person. So I've talked a lot about the music, and that's mainly because Castlevania is attached to it. So it adds basically just sprites from the Castlevania game. Richter, Simon Belmont, all of them, they're all in it. They're all outfits you can use and stuff like that. Yeah, the reason I've been talking mainly about the music is because it's related to Castlevania. And Castlevania was one of the first titles I can remember to where it was a game I wanted to buy to listen to the music and not play the game, if that makes sense to anyone out there. Not that Castlevania, the original Castlevania one, are not great games. They are great games. Obviously created an entire genre along with Metroid. But my younger self just heard the Bloody Tears or Vampire Killer and the other famous songs from Castlevania, and I wanted to listen to those songs, not necessarily play the game. Now, obviously now I play Castlevania regularly, but back then I just wanted to sit and listen to the music. So my relationship with Castlevania is very music related. That's why I put a lot of emphasis on it. And the music is there. The novelty of Castlevania in a Dead Souls game, again, that comes with the music. It's so repetitive. For like the first, like I said, 10 hours or so, it is fantastic. It is hype. But after that, it's just, I need something else. Dead Cells as a game itself, DLC aside, I highly recommend. Again, if not at all for the price, it's a new experience for you. Check it out. The DLC, if you're a fan of Castlevania, it's a must-have, maybe, for you. Again, because you're probably like me who like the gothic atmosphere and you like the music, and that may be what you got attracted to it. That'll get you to get it too. So where I'm getting at is, if you are a fan of Dead Cells, if you're a fan of roguelites, if you're a fan of Castlevania music and things associated with Castlevania, what I'm saying to you is that a game like Dead Cells, and it's all this DLC for the price you can get it for, is a must pick up. Like I said, for if you just got Dead Cells with the Castlevania DLC, it would be like $15 to $20, and you're going to get 20 to 30 hours out of it, in my opinion. Or if you get it all, you might pay $30 or $40 for it, and you're getting a lot of content for a game. But keep in mind, it's repetitive, happens a lot. So music is a big motivator for it. So if you're someone who likes to play music and sit and relax and chill out, as the kids say, pick up Dead Cells. If you're a casual gamer, this game is ideal, in my opinion, for just picking up and playing for a little bit. I should say a little bit, like a full session lasts about an hour without having to stop. But it's a game you can pick up and put down pretty easily. So if you're casual as well, for the price, Dead Cells is a pretty fantastic game. So overall, if you are someone who likes to challenge yourself, and you also like to be distracted by other things while you're doing something, and again, that's only something other people that are like me will understand, pick up Dead Cells. Pick up the Dead Cells DLC. You're going to have a lot of fun with it. Again, for all the reasons I've already said.
Going to touch base on Metroid Prime Remaster. I got it for Nintendo Switch. I said that if it was some kind of like important proclamation, but it is the only place you can get it. Metroid Prime was a game I didn't play when it first came out, so 2000, 9/11 territory. But you always hear about how great of a game it is, so I got it on the Switch, and it is in fact a great game. I hate getting lost. I hate the feeling of getting lost, and that's what Metroid is. I mean, that's kind of the foundation. It's like the basis of the gameplay of Metroid in all its versions is getting lost. And this one is no different. And that's all fine and good. I hate getting lost, and I hate the feeling of getting lost. So while Metroid Prime was very fun to play and easy to play at that, when it comes to Metroid games in general, you get lost a lot, and I don't like doing it. But it's not going to be a full-length review like it was with Dead Cells, just because I'm not emotionally attached to it as I was with the Castlevania DLC. It was, I think, a $40 full price for it, and the full graphics are completely redone. It looks fantastic compared to the original. And again, this is another one of those things that for the price, if you're a fan of shooters, you might want to pick it up because it's a different kind of shooter. It's not your typical just, shoot, gun, grenade kind of setup. There's a lot more to it, and then there's puzzles and what have you. I'm not going to talk a lot about Metroid Prime, like I said, just because I don't have like an emotional connection to it or anything like that. But I did want to talk about the just this last week, the very last Super Mario movie trailer came out. And I don't know if a release date was announced before, but they announced April 5th, 2023, the release date for the Super Mario movie. And they announced it with the last trailer. I'll have to say this last trailer got me excited about it. The other ones felt incomplete because they were incomplete. This one felt incomplete too, but I don't know. This one just really pumped you with the nostalgia, and it hooked me this time. So it got me excited. And one thing Nintendo thought that people in the United States would be really excited about, and, in fairness, maybe they are, they announced at the very end. So Steve Jobs made it a point that at the end of an Apple thing, he would say, his one more thing, blah, blah, blah. And that's when, like, the big excitement comes. He's going to announce an iPod, or he's going to announce something, like, cool and huge. Other companies do that, too. Nintendo would sometimes do that. So Miyamoto's doing his thing. They show the trailer. Seth Rogen's doing his business, blah, blah, blah. And Miyamoto goes, oh, yeah, one more thing. Me, personally, I just have this sinking feeling that they're going to announce a new Mario game, and we're just like, it's just going to happen anytime. So I thought it was going to come here, a 2D Mario game. Instead, he announced that in the Nintendo New York store, a pair of Mario shoes made by Red Wing will be on display. That's it. It was so shockingly humble and honest that it could only come from Japan. And that's why I love Miyamoto. The Mario trailer, though, I don't really have anything to say about it. And I'm at that point now where, yeah, I'm an adult talking about video games, but this movie, obviously, and everything associated with Mario is associated with kids, but this movie is clearly out of my, it's for kids. So we're going to move on to pro wrestling now. That's all I got for video games here. There was more stuff. There's always more stuff. And if you're listening to us on a Monday and you're wondering why eventually I don't talk about anything Oscars related, it's because I'm recording this on a Sunday. So we'll talk about the Oscars if there's anything to talk about next week. I don't anticipate there will be, but I'm a huge fan of everything everywhere all at once. So, that's obviously earmarked to win some pretty big ones. So we might have some things to say. All right. Going to speed run some pro wrestling news. I mentioned in the beginning, AEW's Wardlow was a victim of a car break-in, and his TNT title was stolen, also his ring gear inside of his rental. And if you don't remember, maybe it wasn't the TV title, it was the World Championship. When Jericho was the champion like 3 years ago, he had the belt stolen. And I want to say not that long ago,
I think it was Darby Allin or someone had the TNT title or one of those belts, and it got stolen as well. So at that point, we're looking at a trend. And after that, I'm just thinking to myself, this is just publicity, and it didn't really happen. And I hate thinking that because he lost all this stuff. I hope it's not real, but expensive. I think they have platinum in their belts. Why are these wrestlers? Why are they allowing these wrestlers to leave them in the rental car, or what have you? See, I hope it's a replica, because WWE has, like, when you're a champion, they have like 5 different belts. They have the show belt, which is like 90 pounds and looks amazing, which is the one you see on TV. They have the publicity belt, which is the one you see like football. They send them the football players when, they send them to Patrick Mahomes when they won the Super Bowl. And then they have just like other ones for other different scenarios. So I'm hoping AEW is the same thing, and it's not letting these idiots walk around with these extremely expensive titles and they're leaving them in rental vehicles. I don't have the whole story, so maybe it wasn't entirely his fault, but accidents happen. But let's do something about these TVT and these damn titles getting stolen, whatever they're called. Let's see what we got here. Oh, I want to talk a little bit about AEW's attempts to make Ring of Honor their alternative brand. So if you don't know, AEW bought Ring of Honor and is making it, what I can tell, making it some kind of like farm system for AEW Dynamite and what have you. Excuse me. And they're doing it by the classic ECW style of promotion. We're the alternative brand. We don't do this for money. We do this for fun. We like violence and fun and blah, blah, blah. They're doing that route, it seems like, with Eddie Kingston as their Stone Cold Steve Austin, which, listen, if you're going to do that, that's the person you would do it for. So I'm not criticizing that. But the whole gimmick for AEW was AEW is the alternative brand to WWE. So if Ring of Honor is the alternative brand to Ring of Honor and AEW is the alternative brand to WWE, I just don't see that working out well. I know in the past it definitely works, and it may work again. I may be jumping at conclusions, but I don't know. I just don't think the main AEW roster, I shouldn't say the roster, the company itself is polarizing enough to be the enemy, the Mr. McMahon, if you will, of the group. So I don't anticipate that this idea of Ring of Honor being the alternative brand is going to help AEW, or in that case, help Ring of Honor, because it hasn't helped me want to watch any new Ring of Honor or anything, too, that they've put out anyway. So, again, that's just me. How do you feel about it? Sami Zayn and the Bloodline I put on here. I don't know exactly what I want to talk about. I don't know why I put that in there, but I think it might have been coming from the fallout from Mania and Elimination Chamber. I was kind of one of the only ones who was okay with Sami not beating Roman Reigns for the world title at Elimination Chamber, just because I think this storyline, the Bloodline storyline as a whole with Sami and KO and all that is bigger than normal storylines, and the kind of thing with Cody, they kind of got to take advantage of it now. And that's kind of the same argument people have been using Sami Zayn, like pull the trigger on him now because he's hot now. I think he's transcended that, and I think he has for his entire duration. So this isn't something that is new, in my opinion. This is something that has been brewing and has been alive since Sami Zayn was in NXT, and it's still there. And I don't think him losing and where they're going with it is going to affect any future matches or what they can do. Now, we might have reached the pinnacle of it. I think something like this, though, is the exception to the rule, because I think it can be brought back. Having said that, I don't disagree with people who thought that Sami Zayn should have just won an Elimination Chamber and then lost it the next night or something. I don't disagree with them, but I think we're already here now. He's already lost, and I think going forward, it's not going to be a huge issue. Because I think in the long run, in the long term, Cody is going to be a bigger baby face with a lot more people. The hardcores love Sami Zayn. The hardcores are great. WWE is all hardcores. They need to get fans outside of their hardcores back. And Cody would be the one to do that, in my opinion. All right, we're going to talk, I was going to talk about FTR staying with AEW, at least for the time being, but now that I've thought about it a little bit, we can skip over that. Talk over FTR. So I talked about in the beginning, this is an independent podcast. I'm doing everything, editing, all by myself. Everything completely by myself. I don't have an editor. I don't have anyone to go over all of the horrible things that I say and the way that I say them, and the horrible use of the English language. I have no one to fix all that. It is completely independent mind. Having said that, I'd like for this podcast to be an independent-minded one where, we're going to talk about popular pop culture things, but things associated with it, segments, all that, I want to be done, locally, as they say. So if there's anyone out there that has anything independent you want to promote, and you want to use platform to do it on, find a way to reach out to me, and we'll make it happen. My point in all of this was I am a fan of independent games. I talked a little bit about that when we talked about Dead Cells. It's the majority of what I play. I bought a $2,000 machine, and it seems like I only play games that are like $5 on it. So it's what I play. They're fun and they're engaging. So I'm an independent-minded person. I like independent-minded people. So when it came to full-on video game review segments for the show, things that I was going to do regularly, I wanted to do independent games. Games you might not have heard of, from people that just need a rub, from, the 5 people that might be tuning in to listen to this. So this week, the game I chose out of random was Handyman Legend, and you can get it on Steam. It only runs for $6.29 on Steam, so it's a relatively cheap game to play, and it looks like you just play a handyman that goes around and helps out with some different jobs. And I love games where they take, just tasks that are just everyday tasks and that are annoying and makes a game out of it. So this game, it looks like you fix females' apartments. You fix anyone's apartments. But it looks like mainly females. Let's see the trailer here. Watch it live. Okay. That's subjective. Okay, all right, that makes more. Okay, it's porn. Yeah, it's a porn game. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, he fixed the pipes. I get. Okay. All right, that was a big explosion of moisture. Yeah, all right. I mean, technically, it's still an independent game. Oh, he's looking through a drawer. It's full of stuff. It's still an independent game. It's just, oh, okay. Wow, it gets graphic. Oh, that's graphic. I hope you're not listening to this with audio up. All right, this independent game is porn. Yep, it's porn. All right, I'm listening to porn live on my podcast. All right, we're gonna skip that segment now. Independent games are the devil. They're all porn games. All right, so much for the independent spotlight. And there you have the it came from Steam, everybody. Beware, keep your filters on. There's plenty of porn. So we're going to cap off the inaugural show with a review recap of the Last of Us series. If you watched last night, Sunday night, Last of Us wrapped up its first season. Pretty successful first season. We'll talk all about that. So this first part is going to be about the first part of the season and my association with the game. And then we're going to recap this last episode. So The Last of Us to start, I learned about it maybe a few years after it had come out. I didn't have a PlayStation 3. I didn't get back into hardcore gaming to a few years after that. Last of Us was one of the first games I picked up, and I've carried it with me all the time since then. It's one of my favorite all-time games. It's one of my favorite all-time stories in any medium. It's one of my favorite dystopian zombie kind of stories. It's because it kind of turned it on its head, and those are usually the ones that really break through in the genre. This one was one I was afraid of television picking up, or at the time, because it was a different time, obviously, I thought it might be more likely to be a movie, as everybody did, Last of Us movie. But nonetheless, it became a television show, and a very good television show at that. The main thing I want to talk about is what this show has been able to do speculatively for future video game to television adaptations. One of the biggest things, especially video game nerds like myself, look at when they take something we love and we put it on the television is like, all right, what are they going to change here? what are they going to change here? What are they going to change here? Last of Us has several things that I thought that they were going to leave out, replace, get rid of, explain differently. What this Last of Us show has done is this sweet creative dance between the creators of the game and the writers and creators of the television show. Both of them have had their cake, and they had a lot of it, and they ate it up. Because let's just break it down from the beginning. So the very first episode of The Last of Us is like a shot-from-shot remake almost from the game. The only exceptions are the scenes with Sarah, the daughter. There's more of her. I guess more personality is shown through the character, and that's okay because it's an important 5-minute character, the character of Sarah in The Last of Us. But my point is, the very first episode, it could act exactly as a shot-by-shot remake of the game and still have little things sprinkled in between from the creators of the show to enhance it for television. That's exactly what they did. That was the thing that surprised me the most, is the things they kept from the game, they kept pretty much intact. Frame by frame, word for word, they kept it in. And seeing it recreated in a television show has been fantastic, as it's been so well done with the subject matter, taken right from the game. That shows that the creators have respect for the fans of the game, and respect for games and game storytelling in general by doing that. So that first episode was just, like I said, with the exception of the sprinkled in stuff from the creators, was like shot from the game. Fantastic. As the show goes on, what it's doing and what it continues to do, and I hope it continues on and then more people see it and do this too, is again, what I mentioned before, that beautiful dance between the creators of the game, the creative minds of the game, and the creative minds of the TV show, taking both of those things and not pretending one is bigger than the other to anyone, and they kind of mix them together. So as a fan of the game, of course, I want them to keep the things in the game intact. As a fan of creativity, storytelling, things of that sort, I love how they've taken it and they've added their own, I wouldn't even say their own spin, because it is the same stuff from the game. They've decided to put more emphasis on certain things, or mainly that, put more emphasis on certain things. And the thing that has made it easy for the television shows, there's so many little side things, lore, as they say, in the video games, in The Last of Us. There's so much there that you can, in turn, make something out of for a television show. For example, the Bill. I forgot Bill's name. I just used Chat GPT for that. Thank you very much, Chat GPT. So the story with Bill in the game is a very small, very simple story, and he just happens to be a gay character. In the television show, they decided to elaborate on that, and instead of just making it a throwaway situation with Joel, making a new character and a new story that is from the game. It's when you say from the game, it's associated with the game very, very closely, but it's never really shown. And for someone to take that and do what they did with it, handle it with care, is the hope that I'm looking for future directors and writers who wanted to make adaptations of video games. The things in a video game, somebody came up with it. Somebody took their time to think about it. And even if it's this tiny little small thing, somebody took their time to put it in there. And if you can find something to do with it, that's great. And with respect to it, that's the most important thing. To not make a joke, to not make light of it, or to make light of it but not make it a joke, is what I loved most of what they did with The Last of Us TV show. Taking the little things you read and saw from the game, making them bigger and more lived in. I love it. I wish more creators of the adaptations, video games, TV shows would do that as well. So as the show goes on, with the exception of just that first episode that was, video game, screen to screen, so to speak, the rest of the season was that great dance of creativity between the creators of the game and the creators of the television show. And it's brought so many new things to The Last of Us that, the game is over 10 years old, I want to say. And the show has made fans of people who are already fans of the game and brought in millions of other people who didn't even know that 10 plus years ago, we had video games. We started to make video games that felt like movies. That's kind of, full disclosure. That's why this podcast, when I say pop culture and I'm talking about video games the whole time, is exactly that. Video games are pop culture now, more so ever than before. And it could be the future of the medium. So yes, I'm doing segments on video games, but 20 years from now, this podcast may just as well be, as I said it before, just a pop culture podcast. I may not have to say it's video game exclusive. It may just be, it could be an e-entertainment television show in 20 years. Who knows? The point is, The Last of Us, it could have went south in so many different ways creatively, making it into a television show. And I think future directors and writers should and will use this as an example of how to successfully take a game that has a fan base that is die-hard and rightfully so, and can bring them in to society and make something that they love that may be weird and crazy and each make it popular. So having said that, needless to say, I love the show quite a bit. Not to say that there's not criticism. As I mentioned before, what's her name? Bella Ramsey, the actress who plays Ellie. It took me a minute for me to warm up to her as Ellie. I'm going to say it's not her fault just because the character from the game is like personally, but it's a character I love. It's a character a lot of people love. And it's a kind of important character for a lot of people, not so much myself. I'm a 37-year-old male. What can I learn from a 13-year-old teenage girl? But as a piece in the story, Ellie is a perfect character in the game, in my opinion. And it's not a role that can be cast, and to a lesser extent, Joel too. It's not somebody, in my opinion, that can be characters that can be cast and anyone ever be happy with. Pedro Pascal obviously is a national treasure and can do nothing wrong, so that's separate. Bella Ramsey, on the other hand, she had the small role in Game of Thrones, and then I don't think anything else, at least anyone's seen. She's fantastic, but the Ellie character in the game, you immediately connect with, in my opinion. In the TV show, it took a few episodes, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying the character of Ellie didn't connect with me like it did in the video game the same way. That's not to say anything about her acting. I am not a professional actor in any way, shape, or form, but I'm just talking strictly from the character aspect. I didn't get into her portrayal as Ellie until the second to last episode. So the spoiler alert. I have to get used to that since I'm new to posting stuff on the internet. This will be, going forward, complete spoilers of the Last of Us television series. And then I'll give time codes in the description to let you know when that's free if you want to continue to listen once I get to the last episode. But for me, the character of Ellie in the television show, I did not get behind or necessarily care about until this second to last episode. So for those of you who are familiar with the game, the Cannibal episode, the Cannibal Church group people, that episode was fantastic. I think it's my favorite story arc from the game, and I can honestly say it's my favorite story arc from the television show so far, is Ellie's protecting of Joel and in a weird way, coming of age in a post-apocalyptic wilderness is the way I always saw it. And in the game, you were already kind of been with her for 15 to 20 hours, so you're already kind of right there with her. In this one, I'd only ever seen her as annoying. Like I just in the sense of the TV show, whenever there's time with Ellie and Joel in the TV show, I always want to like get her out of the room, get her out of there until the second to last episode, the cannibal episode. I mean, Joel's in it, but you could firmly call it an Ellie episode. That is when the character and the actress broke out for me, and now I'm on board with her as Ellie. It took me about 8 episodes, but I can always come around. You can always bring me back around, and this show has done it with that second to last episode. And that brings us to The Last of Us season finale, which I just watched. And I've decided after just watching it that I'm going to wait a week before I give a full like recap update on the very last episode, just because it is an extremely polarizing episode that brings a lot of questions and stuff about characters and blah, blah, blah. And there's a lot more wanting to go into it. And since it just aired, don't want to get into spoilers now since it's the first episode. So going to hold off on any Last of Us season finale discussion until next week, but I did watch it, and as a fan of the game, fantastic season finale, very well done, and I'm extremely curious to hear and see how a broad audience reacts to the Joel situation. We'll call it for now. More on that next week. Anyways, we're gonna wrap things up. Thank you everyone for listening in. I said in the beginning, and I truly mean, if one person listens into my rambling nonsense and is relatively entertained in any way, shape, or form, thank you. I really do appreciate it. I really do mean it. So until next time, be safe, love one another, and have a great night, everybody.